Have you ever felt like you want to feel hope again, but you just can't? Like no matter how much you try, it feels out of reach, flat, like something inside of you has just shut that door. Or maybe hope is there, but it doesn't feel safe to touch because every time you let yourself feel a little bit hopeful, it feels like life takes it away again. You see a small shift in your child, a moment of calm, a glimpse of things getting better, and for a moment, you let yourself feel it. Relief, maybe even happiness, and then something happens. The behaviors come back, the regression hits, and you find yourself right back where you started. And that drop, that emotional crash, it's so hard to be with. So over time, something starts to shift inside of you. You don't stop wanting hope because you really want it, but either you can't access it anymore or something inside you stops letting yourself feel it, okay? Because it feels too risky, too unpredictable, too painful to lose again. And if you're parenting a hypersensitive, high needs, PDA autistic child, this can become your reality, okay? This constant push and pull between wanting to believe things can get better and protecting yourself from the pain of it not lasting, okay? And what I want to share with you today is this. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling this way, okay? Because hope is not just something you choose. It's something your nervous system either has access to or is protecting you from, okay? And today we're going to talk about why hope can feel so hard to access and how it can begin to come back. So stay with me. So there was a period of time when things were so hard that I really lost hope for this life. Okay. I kept finding myself saying, it wasn't supposed to be this way. We had made this decision to hospitalize my son, hardest decision of my life. Okay. He was experiencing severe aggression, rages, head banging, intense OCD that revolved around controlling even our most basic needs. Okay, so it was the hardest decision I have ever had to make. And to this day, even after doing trauma reprocessing work around that time, for that time, I can still feel emotions underneath. Okay, so for me, choosing to hospitalize him was a last ditch attempt to find some hope. And I'm seeing that in hindsight now. Okay, because for years leading up to that moment, with the intensity of the challenges mounting and living in chronic stress every single day, I was losing hope. I would wake up in the morning not wanting to wake up to this life, not wanting this life, wishing, dreaming that we could just have a normal life. It was so hard every single day. I would drag myself out of bed and force myself through a morning routine, moving my body just to stay somewhat regulated, just to stay sane. And then the day would begin. Hours of meltdowns and rages, property destruction, sleepless nights, basic needs, all of us basic needs not being met. And all the while, my mind kept repeating, it's not supposed to be this way. So fear about the future was constant. Okay, what does this mean for my son's life? Is he going to end up in an institution? He was hospitalized for 5 weeks, okay? And during that time, all I could think was, this is it. This life as I knew it is over. He's going to end up in an institution, and if that happens, my life is over too. I felt like life was working against us, like I was being punished in some way, like no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried to help, nothing worked. I felt completely powerless, helpless to create any change for my son's life. And underneath it all was this deep belief. If he ends up in an institution, I have failed him completely. And if that were true, then I didn't want this life. Okay, we had already been living for years with him out of school, watching things decline and not improve, and all I could see was evidence that things were getting worse. There was nothing in my experience at that time that showed me that this could change. And even later, Even after we came out of that traumatic storm of hospitalization, and when things did start to shift, there were still moments where the lack of hope would creep back in because I would see small improvements and then I would see him go backwards again. And I know that many of you know that cycle, right? You see something positive, you feel some hope, and then boom, crash, it comes crashing down. Okay, so this is what I see. This is the reality that so many parents are living, right? Parenting a PDA, autistic, or highly sensitive, high needs child. Okay, the growth is not linear. It doesn't move in a straight line. It could stall for months, even years. It can go backwards. It can improve and then fall apart again. And what happens over time is something really painful. You start to feel afraid to hope. Okay, because hope starts to feel dangerous. So many parents tell me this, okay? I don't want to feel hopeful anymore because every time I do, I get crushed again. Okay, and then that crash, the fall back down, that emotional drop, it's so hard to be with. It's crushing. So, what do? We inadvertently start blocking hope, okay? Not consciously, but protectively, because the roller coaster of feeling hopeful, seeing progress, and then losing it again becomes too much for the nervous system to handle. So we shut it down. This is the conundrum of this kind of parenting. You want to feel hope, but at the same time, you're protecting yourself from it because it hurts too much to lose it again. And over time, it starts to feel like this is all a cruel joke being played on me, and it's exhausting. Okay, so when many parents come to me, okay, so many of them say, I just want to feel hope again. Okay, so let's just understand what hope actually is, and then also why it feels so out of reach, right? So many parents say, I want to feel hope again. And then the other camp is, I want to feel it, but it's if I feel it, I'm just going to come crashing down again, and I don't want to feel that crash, right? So first of all, I want you to understand this. You're not broken for not feeling hope, okay? And you are not doing something wrong, okay? Because hope isn't just a mindset. It's a neurocognitive and nervous system process, okay? So the psychologist C.R. Snyder defined hope as a combination of three things. Hope is about having a desired future, okay? It's about believing there are pathways to get there, okay? And then it's about feeling a sense of agency that I can influence this, okay? So hope isn't just blind optimism like some of us may think it is. It's future plus possibility plus capacity, right? That I have the capacity to influence this. And from a trauma-informed lens, hope is the belief that your future can be better and that you have a role in making it so, okay? So let's understand why hope disappears, okay? Because this is important to gain awareness of why hope disappears. Okay, so first of all, why hope disappears is your brain is wired against hope under stress, okay? And this makes total sense by the way that our brain works, okay? So the brain has this negativity bias. It's constantly scanning for threat. And when stress is high, like it is with our kids, then our brain prioritizes what's going wrong, okay, what could go wrong, and what has gone wrong. That's all our brain cares about, okay? It doesn't care about possibility and growth and hope. Forget about it, okay? So when you feel like all you can see is decline in front of you and in your life, okay, that's not you being negative. That's your brain trying to protect you because the brain is designed to always focus more on what's going wrong, okay? And then it becomes a wire to be more negative. Okay, so first just notice that. Has that happened to you? Like, does your brain always notice what's going wrong more than it notices, any kind of goodness? Okay, and you're not alone. We're that's all of our brains, right? Okay. So number 2 is that hope requires uncertainty. Okay. But trauma hates uncertainty. Okay. And the brain hates uncertainty and the nervous system hates uncertainty. But hope requires uncertainty. This is the hard one. Okay, this is one of the most important things to understand here. Hope is the only positive emotion that requires uncertainty. Okay, so just take that in for a moment because when I read that, like I was like, holy crap. Yeah, hope is the only positive emotion that requires uncertainty. So if you knew everything would be okay, then you wouldn't need hope. Okay? If you knew everything would be okay, you wouldn't need hope. But trauma and chronic stress make uncertainty feel unsafe. Okay, so first of all, we have a nervous system that doesn't like uncertainty. That's all of our nervous systems. But then the more trauma and chronic stress you have, the more uncertainty feels unsafe. Okay, so the brain then tries to create certainty, even if that uncertainty is thinking, this will never change. Yep, I know that for certain. This will never change. Yep, that's your brain. Okay, it needs certainty. So it's going to stay certain about the negative thing. Okay, because that feels more stable than the unknown. Oh my God, this is like, okay, like fireworks going off for me. Okay, when I learned this. So maybe that is for you too. Okay, so number 3, your nervous system state determines whether hope is even accessible. Okay, so in the nervous system world, and what I always teach is that story follows state. Okay, so if you cannot get to that story of hope, it's because you need to work on your state, shifting your state, the nervous system. And when you shift state, then a new story can follow. So, like if you're in ventral vagal, which is the safety social engagement state, then you can feel openness and connection and possibility and hope. Okay, but you need to be in ventral vagal to feel it, right? You also have to have well-wired, neural grooves in your brain for hope as well that can create that story and that can connect to that story. Okay. Then if you're in sympathetic fight, flight, danger state, okay, the future feels urgent, overwhelming, and threatening. There's no hope there. And then in dorsal, freeze, shutdown, or what's known as the life threat state, you feel numb, collapse. What's the point? Okay. So when you're cycling between sympathetic and dorsal a lot, you're not going to access hope at all because you're not in ventral vagal. So hope is not just cognitive, it's state dependent. So when your body doesn't feel safe, it cannot access hope. So it really requires working on building in safety from a body-based perspective into your life, okay, for you to be able to access it. Okay, so number 4, trauma reshapes how you see the future. Okay, so when you've lived through repeated overwhelm, stress, powerlessness, the brain starts to predict, oh, the future will feel like the past. And this is how our brains are designed again. Okay, we have predictive brains, and it will base our future, determine our future based on what's happening now or in the past. Okay, so then hope gets blocked, right? And instead we go into this learned helplessness mode, chronic stress loops, and repeated unmet expectations. Okay, which then there's the crash, emotional crash. Okay, so number 5, the mental models you're holding may be quietly destroying hope. And this is what I'm talking about, like when I said earlier, when I was talking about nervous systems, you need like well-grooved pathways of meaning in your brain, okay? In order to be able to like connect to those and access those, during hard times. So these are our mental models, right? And hope depends on having goals, okay, that are mental models that feel believable and reachable. And that means like we need to feel like we can believe and reach certain goals that we have in mind of how things should look, right? With our child, with ourselves, with our lives, okay? But if your internal mental model says, oh, a good life should look like this, like more normal, right? Or my child should be like this, like more normal, okay? Or success means this, like more neuronormative standards, Okay. And then your reality today does not match those mental models. Okay. The brain doesn't just say, oh, let's update the mental model. I have a special needs child or a high needs child or a child that's different. So let's just update the mental model. The brain doesn't do that actively. Okay. The brain is basing everything on past mental models. So then the brain just says, oh, this is hopeless. Okay. Okay. So here's the main reframe. The most important thing that I want you to take in from these 5 reasons why hope is unreachable. Okay. First of all, this reframe is that hope is not something you have or don't have. Okay. It is something your nervous system either has access to or is temporarily protecting you from. Okay. So that means we can work with your nervous system, right? So that then you can actually have access to hope. Okay, so what actually builds hope? Okay, this is what I want you to understand where most advice gets it wrong. Okay, hope is not built by forcing positive thinking, telling yourself everything will be okay, or trying to override your reality. Okay. Hope is built through number 1, safety first, which is bottom up, working with the body, feeling safe at a body level. Okay. You cannot think your way into hope if your body feels unsafe. So it starts with working with regulation, right? Coming out of chronic stress and negativity bias, working with regulation. Okay, co-regulation, having moments of co-regulation for yourself and small moments of safety. Okay, because safety is what allows your system to access connection, creativity, possibility, perspective, and then hope. Okay. Okay, number 2 is really expanding your perception. Okay, so not forcing positivity, but expanding your perception. Hope grows when you begin to gently expand what you can see. So, this is about helping your brain to move out of chronic negativity bias and help it to see what is positive or working or what feels safe in this moment. Okay, so this is what I teach parents all the time. We need to actively work on helping our, change what our brain is focusing on from negativity bias to what is positive right now, what is working, and what feels safe in this moment when you're not with your child first. Okay. So it's not about ignoring what's hard, but more about allowing small moments of noticing something working, seeing something shifting, noticing something okay in the here and now. Okay, and this is where practices like noticing glimmers matter. Okay, glimmers are small, subtle moments of safety, connection, or even just neutrality that your nervous system can register as okay or safe enough. Okay, they are not big wins, they are not life-changing moments. Okay, they are things like a brief moment of calm in your body, a small connection with your child, small moment of connection with your child, quietly sipping your favorite drink like warm tea. Okay, taking in the sunshine or blue sky or something beautiful in nature. Okay, a moment where nothing is going wrong and it's quiet, you know? And this practice is very simple but powerful in rewiring the negativity bias. Okay, you just pause and you notice the moment. You stay with it for a few seconds longer than you normally would. I would say at least 30 seconds. Feel the appreciation or goodness of this moment. Okay, and then let your body register it, right? Okay. And then the shift happens, right? Your brain starts to update. Okay. You're teaching your brain, okay, there's stress here. Yeah, but this exists too. Safety exists too. Goodness exists too. And over time, this gently begins to shift your perception. Okay. Not by forcing positivity, but by expanding what your nervous system is able to take in. Okay. So, number 3, okay, is creating believable futures. And this has to do with your mental models. Okay. Hope dies when the future your brain has in mind feels too far away. Okay. So instead of everything will be okay, it becomes maybe this moment can feel 5% safer. Okay, maybe I can support myself differently today. Okay, so we want to take it out of like, come out of your future focus of how life should look like, how life should be, and instead bring yourself back to the present moment. Okay, and say, okay, how can I make this moment feel 5% easier, 5% safer? Okay, or maybe I can support myself differently today. Okay, so this is about staying in the present moment, and it's also about bringing safety to the fear that comes up, right? The fear that's always coming up when you see your child in these patterns, in these behaviors, in these challenges, and your fears will come up. So it's about being able to bring safety to those fears, okay? Because when your system is focused on the future, especially from a dysregulated state, it will almost always predict worst case outcomes and produce fear. Okay, but when you bring your focus back to how can I support myself right now? How can I shift my state even slightly in this moment? How can I help myself feel safe with this fear? You begin to create change in the present. Okay, so first we're coming out of the mind and the future fears and the mental models predicting, a bad future, and just coming back to the present. Come back to the present, come back to the present. Every time you notice future fears, come back to the present. Notice how you can make this present moment feel a little safer. Okay, so you begin to create change in the present, and this matters more than it seems, because every time you support your fear and shift your state even slightly, you're giving your brain new information. You're updating its predictive models. Okay, so while it may feel like you are just supporting yourself in the moment, okay, what you're actually doing is changing how your brain begins to see the future. Okay, and from there, a more believable and more hopeful future starts to emerge. Okay, so it's also, and we're going to get into updating meaning as part of that. Okay, but first, number 4 is rebuilding agency. Okay, so this is huge. Okay, hope requires the feeling that I can influence something. Okay, so think about how often we feel like I can't control my child, I can't influence my child to change, I can't get my child to do this, that, or the other, and then we start to feel powerless and helpless, and we feel like it's hopeless, it's a hopeless cause. Okay, think about how many times you think that way and feel that way. I know I have. Okay, but hope requires the feeling of I can influence this. Okay, even if that something is small. Okay, and this is not about controlling the future or controlling your child. Okay, most of us are always thinking about how we can influence the future. We need to come out of that. Okay, and instead we need to be more focused on influencing today, this moment, and influencing ourselves and how we react to this moment. Okay, that's the most important thing. It's about recognizing I can influence how I support my fear, my grief, my anger. I can influence how I meet myself in this moment. I can choose how to interrupt this stress pattern and bring in a cue of safety. Okay. So what does this actually look like? Okay. It can look like pausing, right? Being with yourself instead of reacting immediately or trying immediately to control your child. Okay. It involves taking a breath. Okay. Maybe doing a bit of orienting, noticing and naming 5 things in your environment just to come back to the present. It may include placing a hand on your body for support and grounding. Okay. Giving yourself compassion instead of criticism. Stepping away for a moment to regulate if you need to and if you can. Choosing to soften instead of push, right? How much do we go to push? Do something, both ourselves and our child. So maybe we can choose to let go of pushing, right? Allow what is and just soften ourselves, or being kinder and more compassionate with yourself. Okay. And these are small moments of choice. Okay. And although they seem simple, they are profound, because every time you do this, you are teaching your system, I am not completely powerless here, and I have choice and how I can help myself. And that begins to rebuild agency. Okay. And as your sense of agency grows, so does your capacity for hope, because you're also regulating yourself. Okay, so number 5 is update meaning. Okay, this is so hugely important because hope is deeply tied to meaning. Okay, when meaning is stuck in this shouldn't be happening, there is something wrong with how things are right now, there is something wrong with my child and with me as a parent, and we are failing, right? Because we don't measure up to the mental model standards that we have in our head. So hope cannot survive there, okay? So part of this work is gently beginning to shift into what is the gain here, okay? Not just the loss, but what is the gain? What am I learning? How am I growing through this challenge? And what is this teaching me that I would never have learned otherwise? Okay, so we want to change our meanings from comparing it to something that then makes us register a whole bunch of loss to instead allowing ourselves and our lives to be okay as it is and seeing that there's a lot of gains here, there's a lot of learning here. Okay, and when your brain can see that, then it doesn't register your life as a loss, it registers it as a gain. Okay, which then you start to feel more hopeful. Okay. So this is not about bypassing the pain. Okay. It doesn't mean pretending things are okay. It means allowing a more expanded meaning to exist alongside the difficulty. And when meaning expands, hope has somewhere to land again. Okay. So here's where hope came back for me. Okay. So what I want you to know is this. Hope did not come back for me when my life suddenly changed. Okay, it didn't come back when everything got easier. It came back when I started to rebuild my sense of agency, my ability to influence my internal state, and the meaning that I was making about our life. Okay, and this is the work I now teach inside my course, The Regulation Rebuild. Because what so many parents, okay, discover is this, that hope doesn't come from changing your circumstances first. It comes from changing your relationship to your internal world, right? Your relationship to how you react to what's happening outside of you. And when you do that, you're back in your power, okay? This is from learning this is learning, okay? This is all about learning how to shift your nervous system state. Find moments of choice, even in hard situations, and begin to choose meanings and stories that feel supportive and true. Okay. And from there, hope doesn't feel forced. Okay. It starts to feel possible again. So I want you to know this, okay, that you can find hope again and you can have the courage to feel hope again, okay? And hope may not come back all at once, okay? It can come back in moments, it's small little shifts and tiny openings as you're starting to do this work and regulate more. And if you can't feel it right now, that doesn't mean it's gone, okay? It just means that your nervous system has been protecting you, okay? And when you can work with your nervous system and shift your state and update meanings to more life-affirming ones, then hope can come back online again. Okay, so that's what I want you to hold on to. Keep working on your nervous system, keep shifting state, keep updating those meanings, especially those meanings, and then you'll see that hope will be there on an ongoing basis. So if this helped you, please do share with other parents. Please comment, please like. All of it helps to get this messaging out to other parents in the world. Thank you so much for being here.